You're listening to the Career Jump podcast. Insights, interviews, and success stories to inspire and give you the edge when you make your next career jump. Hosted by your career concierge, Andrew McCaskill.
Hello, welcome back to the Executive Career Jump podcast. I'm your host and career concierge, Andrew McCaskill. I'm very excited to be joined by Lola Brocklesby. How you doing, Lola?
Hello, Andrew. I'm doing well. Thanks very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, really, really good and excited to have you back on. So Lola and I did a live broadcast last year and have decided to follow that up with a recorded podcast episode. But for anyone who missed the original live or hasn't interacted with you before, can you just tell us a bit about yourself and the type of work you get involved with?
Yeah, sure. So obviously I'm a career coach and I specialise working with mid-career professionals. So people, around the age of 35 to 45 who've maybe been in the job for, 5, 10, 15 years, but they're just not feeling that passion anymore. So, they've done really well in their career, they've got the lifestyle that they want, but they're just every day waking up and just thinking, is this it? And I'm there to kind of help you to find out if there's something more that you should be doing, or, if maybe the career that you're in can be salvaged. So that's kind of what I like doing.
And I love that, which is why I was so keen to get you back on, because I honestly think that there's a serious issue with people in that mid-career section. It's that existential crisis. People kind of get that promotion that they've been fighting for, or they get to where they think they wanted to go, and it's that underwhelming feeling once they get there. I hear that from so many people. So say that there's somebody listening to this podcast right now who feels like they're in a bit of a rut, or they're not getting what they want from their career. What kind of advice would you have to them in terms of how to start to unpick all of that?
Just say, just reflect on how long you've been feeling like that, because obviously every job, even the dream job in inverted commas, there's always going to be days that we don't enjoy or things about that job that we don't like, and that can, go up and down. But if you've been kind of waking up every day and kind of thinking, oh God, not again, or, you get invited to a meeting and you're just not excited, and you're kind of looking around at your other teammates and they're all really excited and, fired up, and you're like, oh, it's not really, I just don't know what it is. It's just not for me. I'm just not enjoying it. I'm just dreading it. Then, just reflect on that. Because if it's been, 3, 6, 9, or even 12 months and you've been feeling this way, and as you said, you've gone for a promotion, you've got more money, you've got more status, and you're still not feeling it, then something needs to be addressed, really, doesn't it? And people always get quite scared because they think, oh no, it means that I'm going to have to throw the towel in and everything that I've done for the last 25 years and start again. But it doesn't always mean that. It doesn't always mean that you need a complete career change. Sometimes you might just need to tweak a few things, or, a bit of a pivot, or just kind of take stock of where you've got to, be proud of where you've got to, and just think about, what it is that you need now. And I think, as we grow and we get older and we have different priorities, and, we just change, don't we? We're not the person that we were when we were 18, and that's fine. So maybe it's just looking at what's important to you now, really. So what I'd say is, if somebody's listened to this and they feel that way, don't be scared. Don't think that you're going to have to completely change what you're doing, or everything that you've done up until this point's been a waste of time, because it's not the case. I can help you with all of that.
Yeah. And to an extent, you're exactly where you need to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. That does kind of take the pressure off, doesn't it, really? We are where we are. That's kind of what we have to think about.
And what do you think gets in the way of people who are unhappy in their career taking the required action to put it right?
Well, basically, it all comes back to fear, doesn't it, really? But that manifests itself in different ways. And also, there's a lot of responsibility in that mid-career level. So, they've worked hard, they've studied, they've put the hours in, they've worked late and all of that stuff. And then they've got to a point which, as you say, they feel like they've made it. And for some reason, they're not feeling that way. And then it's hard to kind of speak to friends and family and colleagues and kind of talk about how you feel, because it's a bit embarrassing, isn't it, really? Because on paper, you've got it all, and everyone's like, oh, Lola's got this amazing job, she looks really happy, and she's got the car and all that stuff. But if you're not feeling it inside, it can be quite difficult to have those conversations. And also, it's about, what else can you do? Because we get so pigeonholed in what we've been doing, especially if it's something that you've done from, maybe gone to university, got into that job, and then worked your way up in it. You can feel a bit like a one-trick pony, really, and you think, well, what else can I do? This is kind of me. I've never known anything else. I've only worked in this industry. And it's scary, isn't it? It's scary to kind of take a step out of that, because you don't know what's on the other side of it. There's no 100% certainty that if you make a change that it's definitely going to be what you want. And that's why, you've got to take the time with that, really. You shouldn't do any kind of knee-jerk reactions of, because you can feel like that at work, can't you? You can be like, oh God, I just can't stand it anymore. I'm just going to go for this job. And, you get the job and then 6 months later, you feel exactly the same as you did. So, don't be scared to make a move, but it's got to be a calculated kind of planned move, really.
Yeah. And the I will be happy when ...
Yeah.
That just doesn't really transpire in general, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think we've all felt like that, haven't we? But I think it's all the trappings of success traditionally we've seen have been stripped right back with this pandemic. I mean, all the things that we relied on, to kind of disguise the fact of how we're feeling, the holidays, the weekends away, spending, going out for dinners and whatever, and drinks with friends. That was all stripped back. So then it's like, in a way, I think it's been a good sort of awakening for people, really, who maybe were unhappy with what they were doing and they can't mask it by doing all those things now. So I think we've seen that, those sort of material things don't really make you happy. And obviously, if you've gone for the promotion and you're still not happy, then, you need to kind of look at that, really.
Yeah. Well, Bill and Melinda Gates announced they're getting divorced. So
Wow.
if ever there was a case study that billions doesn't necessarily equal happiness, there you go.
But this is it, isn't it? Money can't buy you happiness, as they say. I mean, obviously it does eradicate a lot of the problems that we all have, but underneath that, there is a person with wants, desires, and needs, and that can't always be bought, can it? So yeah, good point.
Okay, great. Really, really good discussion. So how have you found the last 12 months? You mentioned there a lot of people have been resetting. Like, tell us what you've seen with clients, what you've been experiencing yourself. I'm really interested to hear more on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was quite interesting for me because I don't specialise in helping people who have been made redundant from their job or about to be made redundant. That's something that I've done in the past, obviously as a career coach, that's something that we do. But that was something that I kind of put out there kind of straight away. If anybody needs any free support with, going through that, obviously being furloughed was a big thing, but then being made redundant and just not knowing what was going on and what your next step were. So straight away, I kind of put that out really and just said, if anybody needs any free support. So from that, obviously I had a lot of kinds of calls with people who were really desperate and really stressed out. So that was at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I think things sort of settled down slightly. And then obviously we saw people actually coming out of those roles. But then I think, it was about helping people to give them what they needed at that moment. So not everybody wanted to or had the time or had the sort of headspace to really think about things in a kind of planned way. So it was more about reacting. So I had a lot of people I was, just purely doing sort of interview skills, CVs, redundancy support, that kind of thing. And then as time's gone on, I think we've eased back into the sort of way of, understanding that things are picking up now and that they weren't happy and that maybe their employers have showed their true colours. Because I think once people are out of the office and they were at home and, the technology wasn't working and they were expected to have sort of back-to-back Zoom meetings all day and there was no sort of support or kind of compassion from their employer, I think people started to understand who they'd actually been working for. And then that became a thing, really. So then I've had a lot of people who've come to me and they're just like, I didn't realise that I was so unhappy in my job, but since being at home and being away from colleagues and not being able to get out and about, I've realised that this isn't what I want to do. So it's been a bit of a strange up and down one, really. But I think as career coaches, you have to react to what people need in the moment. But I'm happy to be able to help people, I think. I mean, it's great, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a real privilege. And it's some really interesting insights there. And when you said earlier, it's like everything's been stripped back. I think that's absolutely right. And some companies have been caught out. Others have really shone. Some relationships have got stronger. Some relationships have crumbled. Yeah. Like everything's just been stripped back, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. Okay, great. So back to the career coaching piece then. So let's imagine, one of your clients has come to you and you've helped them get to a point of clarity whereby actually they are ready and need to make a pivot into a different direction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they're on one path at the moment. They're not fulfilled. They've got to that plateau that we spoke about and that kind of emptiness, the Sunday dreads, all of that.
Yeah.
And now you're going to help them go in a different direction. You've decided together that actually the direction they want to go in is over here.
Hey everybody, it's Andrew here. Just wanted to very briefly interrupt this podcast episode to tell you a little bit more about our Career Jump Club. So our Career Jump Club was created to help job seekers understand what they want and how to get it, right? So becoming a club member is a great move if you're looking to get the clarity and confidence in order to secure your next role. With the membership, you get a number of different things. So first thing you get is access to our online platform, which has over 30 videos, 40, 50 different templates, workbooks, and it takes you through everything from sort of understanding what you want to how to position your CV and LinkedIn, how to interview, how to close offers and negotiate better salaries, a full end-to-end job search course effectively for senior leaders. So you get that, you get a fortnightly group coaching call, which is with me and with the other members, where we bounce around best practice, share slide decks, share techniques, and share the latest data on what's working for people. And you get to, most importantly, become part of our closed LinkedIn group and our closed community. And in there is where the magic often happens, because you get people referring each other into opportunity, supporting each other, and just sharing. And that's what it's all about. So if you're financially able and you'd like to invest in your job search, head on over to www.execcareerjump.com, all one word, /club. And you'll find the landing page and come and give it a go. We'll see you in there. Anyway, back to the pod.
What kind of advice would you give them in terms of the types of things they need to be doing to make that transition?
Well, for me, it's not so much advice. I mean, it's coaching. So not everybody likes that. You know, people want to be told. They're like, can you tell me what I should do? Can you look at my CV and tell me what job I should be doing? Like, I'm not a recruiter. I can do that if you need me to do that. But if we're having career coaching, it's going to be a more kind of in-depth process. So we're not leaving any stones unturned here, really. So if you're going in, you've got to go all in with this process. So basically, it's about, again, stripping everything back, really, and kind of creating a space for people where there's no judgment. I don't know this person. I'm not part of a friendship group or, you know, your kind of colleague group or whatever. It's just me. So feel free to open up and say what you want to say and how you really feel, which I think is a really important thing, because when do we really ever get the chance to say how we really feel and what we really want to do? So I pride myself in kind of creating that kind of environment, really. And then it's just about basically looking at, you know, what motivates them and why that motivates them, and why the things that maybe they've been doing so far have not been motivating them. So getting under the skin of all that, really, and understanding when that first started to happen. You know, can we pinpoint it to a particular boss that maybe came in, or a particular project that you were working on? Let's just look at it all and get it kind of all out on the table. And then it's about looking at the things that they're good at, so their skills, their kind of unique skills. And the way that we understand that they're unique to them is, okay, we've all got skills, but let's look at a time when you've used those skills and the results that you've got, and that only you could have got that result because of the unique set of skills and experiences and knowledge that you've got. So that really sets you apart then, and that gives them confidence. So then they can kind of see, okay, I do actually enjoy doing that thing, and I'm good at it because of X, Y, and Z. And then we look at that and we get all of the pieces together and we think, well, what does this point towards? Do you have any ideas? And usually, I mean, as I said before, when we did the live, people are like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I'm completely clueless. But, you know, most people, if you ask them, even if they say they don't know, they do have some little seeds of ideas, but they just don't want to admit to it. So it's about, again, getting those out, looking at them, nothing to be ashamed of. If you tell me that you want to go and live in a tree house, that's fine. Let's see if it's practical. And then just kind of putting all these components together, really, and then constructing it. And we write a job description and we give it a title if we can. If we can't, that's when we need to do some exploration and research, really, in that area. So you've said that these are the type of things that you're interested in, and this is the type of company that you want to work for. Where does that kind of show up in the outside world? Where does that manifest itself? So there's a lot of research and exploration, really, talking to people that work in those areas, you know, finding out what that job entails, kind of being a bit of an investigator, and then coming back together, bringing it all together. What have they found out? You know, what do they feel about that? What direction do they want to go in? And then that's it then, really. I mean, it sounds really easy, but it kind of, obviously I'm there all the way through. And it's not just a tick box exercise of, okay, you said you want to do this, so now you're going to go and do that. There's a lot more to it, but it works basically, and I really enjoy it. And I think that after 4 weeks of working together, they can say that they actually know what they want to do. After feeling so confused, you know, you do feel like Superwoman at that moment.
Yeah, it's a lovely feeling, isn't it? The treehouse sounds pretty attractive to me right now, absolutely.
Well,
I could do with that.
or a hammock, I'm not bothered. Whatever anyone wants to do, it's all possible.
Yeah. A couple of things. There was a whole heap of value in what you just shared there, but a couple of things that I want to scratch on a little further. You mentioned that magic word, confidence. How much does that play a part in all of this, in your experience?
It's like 1,000,000%. It's just, it's just ridiculous. Like, and I feel like throughout my career, when I've done like assessment centers and recruitment for bigger companies, and you've got some like directors and heads of departments and that kind of thing going through that process. And I was always surprised at how kind of nervous they were and how, full of self-doubt they were. So this happens at every level. So I realized early on that just because you, a CEO doesn't mean that you don't have these doubts and, crisis of conscience or whatever. So confidence for all of us. And I think to just be heard and to be listened and to be validated. I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but, actually giving someone some time and space to actually be themselves and to feed back. Because when I'm talking to people, sometimes they're like, oh, I haven't done anything. And I ask them about the successes. Oh, I haven't really got any successes. And then we get talking, I'm like, that was amazing. You worked on that project. You saved the company, like whatever it was, or you implemented this system. And then they're just like, oh, okay, well, I suppose I am okay. And then, you just see it, their faces light up and they just feel amazing. So confidence is everything really, isn't it?
I think so. And it is good. Like one of the habits I get into is if somebody is working with us on their LinkedIn profile or whatever, is we work out what their personal value proposition is.
Yeah.
And then I pitch them to them.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so I just pitch it at them. I say, okay, well, I'm now going to pitch you back to you. And you see them light up as that, it's like that switch going off where they go, wow. And they say, oh, like somebody yesterday said to me, that lady sounds really good. Like, but that's you. Like,
my God.
All I'm doing is playing your own words back to you. But for them to hear it back with somebody else pitching what they've achieved back to them, completely reframes it. We're all better at helping other people than we are ourselves.
Oh my God, so true, so true. And it's just so interesting, isn't it? And I think the thing that you've said there, it's like such a simple thing to do, isn't it? I mean, they know what they've done because they've experienced it, and you're just hearing it for the first time. But to reflect that back to them and for them to feel so, amazed at themselves is such an amazing thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's because your confidence gets knocked at the time that you need it most. If you're in transition, you need confidence, and yet actually it's under attack. You might just come out of a bad experience or redundancy or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so the more people can do to remind themselves who they are, read your LinkedIn recommendations.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah.
Go and ask, go and do a strengths finding exercise and do a 360 feedback exercise, like whilst you're in transition, all that stuff, just to remind you, take on some mentees. That's another great one.
Yeah.
Just to remind you who you are and what you're about.
Because also, like, once you've found out what you want to do and you're in the job search phase, that's the difficult time, isn't it? Because you are going to get knocked down. So you do need to, I'm always like, write down your top 3 successes and just remind yourself, put them around your laptop or computer. So just immerse yourself in that. Whenever you're feeling rubbish, pull them out, have a read of it, and just remind yourself who you are and what you've done. We all need it, don't we?
We certainly do. A really interesting nuance in your methodology that you just described that I picked up on was that you spoke about writing the job description for them, which I thought was really interesting because most people start with writing their CV.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about that exercise, because that sounds like a really good way to go about it.
Well, this is it really, because it's all about finding the ingredients of what we need in our career. So all of that stuff that's said about the skills and the things that you like, and also the non-negotiables. So the things that you need to be happy in your job. So if it's a certain salary, then that's fine. If it's a certain commute to work, that's fine. Or, if you've got kids and you need to be able to drop them off, all of those things that we need, or certain things that you need. And then it's just about constructing that job description. So we look at the tasks that you'd be doing every day, the skills that you'd be using, the type of company that you'll be working for. Do they have any benefits? What hours will you be working? Like, just completely mapping everything out. And then, as I said, maybe that job doesn't exist exactly like that, but maybe, 10 out of the 15 attributes do actually exist, and it's this type of job, or this can be found in this kind of company. Or maybe you need to go and set up yourself and become, have your own business, or you found a gap in the market. So it's kind of reverse engineering it. So instead of trying to look at what you've got and shoehorning yourself into what exist. It's about understanding what you want and then seeing how that kind of manifests itself in the outside world, really.
It's clever. I like it.
It's enjoyable.
You mentioned doing your own thing there. We've seen more people than ever over the last 12 months go their own route, set up in, whether it's coaching, whether it's business ownership, e-commerce, whatever it might be, consulting, a lot of people going their own route. As somebody who's made that transition themselves, what do you see as the pros and cons of, in general, obviously it's on a case by case, but of employment versus doing your own thing?
I think it's about personality, really. If you've got that personality that needs someone to tell you what to do every day, and you need, those sort of markers that tell you that you've done something right, and, in a sort of structured environment, then maybe self-employment isn't for you. But if you've got, gifts that you need to share with the world, and it can't be contained within an employer, then, maybe that's the thing for you. And I think that it's not for everybody. 10 years ago, this wouldn't have been for me, maybe 5 years ago even, but because I've sort of outgrown the space that I was working in, I felt sort of caged, and I felt like my wings had been clipped, and I couldn't really do the things that I wanted to do or express myself in the way that I wanted to. So it was a natural progression for me. So I think you would potentially know when the time is right. I don't think you should just do it if maybe you've been job searching for a bit and you can't find a job. Then the only thing is self-employment. I'm not saying don't do that, but I do think that you've got to prepare and plan and really think about, again, it's about thinking about what you can offer and, what your sort of unique thing is that you can offer to the world. But if financially speaking, everyone's in different situations. So you may have to I always talk about taking a survival job, just to pay the bills, maybe for 12 months or 2 years while you kind of build that business up alongside it. But I wouldn't say it was an easy thing just to go into, because it can take, as we know, it takes time to build up momentum and figure things out. But I think if that's something, if you've got the idea, then go with it, explore it, see what's out there, see what your sort of potential competitors are doing, and speak to people who are already doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's definitely pros and cons. I think that business ownership does get glamorized, and that people talk a lot about, the freedom and everything that comes with it, without necessarily, I don't think people are as open about talking about some of the anxiety, some of the stresses.
No, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I'm on my own as well, so it's not like I have other team members or anything. I do have coaches that I work with every now and again, and believe it or not, coaches need to be coached as well. You need those mentors and those people to check in with, but it's not all, daisies and kind of butterflies every day. It is hard. And I think because of what we do, it's a service-based business. We're selling ourselves, aren't we, really? And we are the product kind of thing. So I can only talk from that point of view. Maybe if you've got a product-based business, it may be different, but it's still, we've got to show up every day. It is us that is kind of front and center of it all. But, it's great. There are, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, because you're obviously further on now, aren't you, really? So you're obviously doing really well,
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to do my own thing, but never had the courage to take the leap. And I'm one of those who had to get fired to then do what I should have been doing the whole time.
Right.
So it's strange. So it's always interesting for me. I have huge admiration for people like you and others who consciously had the courage to take the leap, because I know that ultimately I should have done this a long time ago, but for whatever reason managed to talk myself out of it.
But you're maybe more of a natural entrepreneur then, really, which I'm not really. I just felt like I'd outgrown my space, it was sort of a natural progression, whereas yours was maybe something that was like, no, I know that I can do this myself, and I know that I want to do it. So it's just different ways of coming at it, really.
But a natural entrepreneur would have
well, maybe, yeah. Maybe.
Maybe there's no such thing as a natural entrepreneur. That kind of thought that it's only one type of person. We've both ended up in the same industry via totally different backgrounds and routes.
Definitely.
We do different things within that world, and collaborated on bits. So maybe there is no natural entrepreneurs. Maybe that's a route that's open to people if they want to explore it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think now more than ever, I think we've obviously seen the rise of that, haven't we? So time will tell if it will be, because I suppose some people will do it and then realise it's not for them, and that's fine.
Totally fine as well.
That you've tried it, and you will develop other skills that you wouldn't have developed maybe in employment. So
win or learn. Finally, you and I first started interacting last year, obviously via LinkedIn, and we spend a lot of time on the platform. Interested to hear your thoughts, advice, key learnings from the time that you've spent on LinkedIn, and anything that you could share with the audience.
Basically, if you're not on LinkedIn, you need to be. Whether you're job seeking or not, it is the place to be. And it's a really great supportive platform, really. It's like a platform like no other, really. It's great. I can only say good things about it. So I'd say, if you're not on there, get on there. If you're job seeking, you definitely need to be on there. And obviously, it's about understanding what you're looking for. So once you know what job you want, then you can tailor your profile to, go along with that. So make sure you've got the keywords and all of that stuff and your achievements on there. And then as we do, we interact. You have to post on there. You've got to be active. You've got to be visible, which don't wait around for that, because I remember when I first posted like 18 months ago, I absolutely hated it. I was just like, oh my God, I feel so exposed and visible, and ex-colleagues are going to see, and, friends are going to see. And I just felt so embarrassed. But nobody cares, really. Nobody really cares. You sort of tomorrow's chip paper, really, because there's so many things on there. It doesn't hang around for long. So just get on there and have fun and explore it and try some things out. And only good things can happen, really, on there, apart from the odd troll. But I've never really had that, to be honest. So.
Oh, I've had a couple, but it's And the thing with trolls, I've never met a troll or someone who's openly critical who I'd want to swap lives with, and that's the honest truth.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
I honestly haven't, because for it to make sense to somebody to be that negative towards somebody else, they're probably in a bad place. So I just pity it.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Honestly, that is how I reframe it. I love the point you made about having to let go of the judgment of others in order to do it. And it's so true. Like, so many of my clients are worried about what people are going to think when they start posting. Who do they think they're?
Oh my God, yeah.
They think that every post has to be like a McKinsey level research paper. It doesn't have to be that.
Mine started out very like that, and then obviously, as you can see, you find your flow and you find your groove, and then I'm not quite at the level of posting what I've had for breakfast, but there's room for everyone on there.
There's room for everyone.
You find your flow, and it's great, really.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity, and people are not. People are very, very supportive on there compared to other social media. It is the most supportive platform by a mile, and they're not thinking about you. They're thinking. No. They're not worried about what you're doing. They're worried about what people think about what they're doing. And that's the irony of the whole thing. But there you go. Very good. So we mentioned people in transition there. Just to close the podcast off, any top tips for a lot of our listeners are obviously in that phase. Mm-hmm. Any other top tips for people that are currently in between roles?
In between roles, obviously, it has been a very difficult time. So I just think forgive yourself a little bit. It's a difficult time. None of us have been through this. None of us have ever experienced this, and hopefully will ever again. So just be kind to yourself. And I think things that we've been talking about, take that time to take a step back and reflect on what you've done throughout your career, because that's going to ultimately help you when you go for an interview. You need to be up to date with what you've done, what your successes are, what you've enjoyed. Pull out those things that you were good at and that you enjoyed, and maybe make some connections with that. Build up your network, get kind of comfortable using LinkedIn, and connect with people who are in the industry that you want to work in. Be proactive, because gone are the days where it is just literally firing off a CV to a job. That's only a small percentage. The good work is actually being visible, building your networks, and just getting out there, really. So make things happen. Don't be afraid of having conversations and putting yourself out there a bit.
Tremendous advice there. So for people listening that want to follow up with you or follow you or connect, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
So LinkedIn is where I hang out the most. So I think I'm the only Lola Brocklesby in the world. So you can find me on there, or on my website, vivacareercoaching.com, and Instagram with the same name.
Awesome. So make sure you follow up with Lola if you're not following her already. Thank you again for giving up some time to share your insights. Always really enjoy talking to you. You're one of those people that stands out as being in the industry for the right reasons, and you bring a great energy to the conversation. So thank you so much once again, and wish you all the best for the rest of the year.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on again. Speak to you soon.
Andrew, take care.
You've been listening to the Career Jump podcast with Andrew McCaskill. For more resources and information, just head over to the Career Jump website at www.execcareerjump.com to supercharge your job search and start making moves. Let's get to work.